Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler. I'm your host. I'm the founder of the Order of Man podcast. Welcome here today. If you are new, I want to let you know that I want to give you all the tools and resources and conversations that you need in your life so that you can reclaim masculinity in your own soul, in your own heart, and also in your home, your business, your community, wherever it is that you're serving. We've been downloaded this podcast anyways, tens of millions of times. And I am just so grateful for you for listening. And I'm also very grateful that you're applying the information that we're extracting from our guests like Jocko Willink and Terry Crews and Tim Tebow and Tim Kennedy and Andy Frisella and Ben Shapiro, Matthew McConaughey. I mean, the lineup of the guys that we have on this podcast is phenomenal. And that's a testament to the fact that they want to share the message of manliness and masculinity and that you want to hear it. Today, I want to talk with you about a very important issue, which is something that I hear a lot about. I hear it so often in the Facebook group and in our exclusive brotherhood, the Iron Council, and that is the idea or the concept of work-life balance. Work-life balance. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about what I choose to look at it as, which is work-life integration. And we're going to talk about the pros and cons of each. Now, look, I don't want to get tripped up over semantics. So if you believe that I'm talking about work-life integration and you call it balance, by all means, or vice versa. I don't care what you call it. What I want you to understand is the principle of it. Because once you understand the five principles, or the six, I think I have 6 principles that I share with you, you're going to have an easier time balancing or integrating all facets of your life. So let's break this down. Number 1, there are no hats that we wear. Okay, you'll often hear that. I got to put my dad hat on. I got to put my work hat on. I got to put my clergy member hat on. I got to put the husband hat on. Guys, let's get rid of that thinking once and for all right now. There's no change of hats, or at least there shouldn't be. There should only be your life and what you do with it. Okay. If you're wearing multiple hats, you are going to be confused at times. You're going to be less effective, less efficient. If you have to be this person over here and that person over here, and then you got to rush over here, and there's no time to transition between how you're showing up as a father to the time that you show up as an employee or an employer, there's a lot of inefficiencies in that. And not to mention, things are going to fall through the cracks, because what if you're playing dad role at work? I'm not going to work out very well. What if you're playing work role at home? I know that's a struggle for me. And my wife will often call me out on it and say things like, are you talking to me or are you talking to your guys? And so I try to integrate all facets of my life so that I'm not a different person where I show up. I want to be the same at work as I do at home, as I am in the community, as I am with my friends, as I am on this podcast, because I don't need to remember what I'm doing when and what hat and what my roles and responsibilities are. It's always the same across the board: protect, provide, reside. Now, the way we go about doing those things might be different in certain areas of our lives, but at the end of the day, if you're being a completely different man at different places, you're very inefficient. And you're not honoring, I don't think, to the degree that we can, we're not honoring the people that are in our lives. So let's get rid of the concept that they're hats and that I have to transfer from one place to the other and there's this abrupt start and stop. No, it's continual. It's continuity. And that's the integration that I'm talking about. Number 2, you have to get your family involved in your business, and you have to be involved in the family. This is sometimes a challenge. But if there's opportunities to bring your kids into work, to show them what you do, to help you even with a work project. Now I realize in not all professions is that going to work, but if you can have your kids help you with work projects, if you can have them see what your office looks like, if you can have them help you decorate maybe even your office, or you're helping them buy tools for you that you can use by giving them or your wife hints on what tool you need so that you can grow out your business. Now, all of a sudden they feel part of the business. They don't look at it and think, well, dad leaves at 8 a.m. and he doesn't come home until 6 o'clock at night and I never see him and I don't know what he's doing. No, if you can integrate them into your work process, then they're going to know. And not only are they going to know, they're going to buy into the idea that you are going out to serve, to help, to solve problems, to fix things with the solutions that you have. And they will be ecstatic to be part of it. Now, the opposite of that is also true, that you have to be involved in the family unit. It's not enough for you to wake up and pat little Timmy and Tommy on the head and then go to work for 8, 9, 10, 12 hours or longer in some cases, depending on your shift. And then you come home and you eat dinner and maybe you ask about their day, and then they go to bed and you go to bed and you start that all over again, 5 to 6 days a week. That's not enough either. What we must do, and this is a real struggle for me personally, because I love working. I love my job. I love what I do. I love that I get to talk with you guys. So it's easy for me to gravitate towards that. But when I come home, I want to be present. Again, I'm not always great at this, but I want to be available. I want to be present. I want to know about their day. I want to be involved in their projects. If my youngest son, for example, wants to do Legos, then that's what we'll do. We can talk and have fun and laugh and listen to music together like we often do. If my daughter needs me to take her to dance practice, I don't have to do that very often, but I've done that once or twice. I want to do that. If she wants to color, go in the classroom and color, then that's what we're going to do. At dinner, we try to get together as a family. We pray and we laugh and we ask about each other's day. Just last night, my daughter started it off without our prompting. Hey, what was your favorite part of your day? And we go around the table, we figured it out. But I want to be fully present. And look, I haven't always been that way. And I'm not always to the degree that I want now. But if you are going to be separate at times throughout the day, then do everything that you can to be involved with them. One of my fondest memories, or I should say one category of my fondest memories, is when I'm out on a hunt and my family's here and I successfully harvest an animal. One of my favorite things is to send them a note, a text, and a picture of what I shot. And then I hear from them about how ecstatic they are, how excited they are, how proud they are. But we don't do that for work, right? You close a deal, you don't really share that with anybody. Why not share it with your kids? Why not bring it up with your wife? Why not celebrate with them? Go out for dinner one night because you landed a big deal, or you increased your revenue, or you paid off debt, or anything that it might have happened in your work life. They want to know. They want to be part of it. So allow them to be part of your work and you become part of their life, not just in being there, but actually being present and engaged. Number 3, and this falls in line with number 2 as well. You have to actually explain what it is you're doing on a daily basis. Because if you don't explain to your kids what you're doing, they're going to come up to or with solutions. They're going to come up with ideas as to what you do. And it may or may not be accurate. But if you tell them, hey, I go to work every day and I record podcasts and I get to talk with these men and I share that with other men who can learn and grow and evolve because of the information that we're putting out, they want to be part of that. They're excited about that. Often I'll have a guest, just if it's a guest that they would like, I'll ask if that guest would record a little hello, if you will, a little cameo type thing, if you will, so that I can show my kids, hey, you know, Matthew McConaughey, check it out. He was thinking about you. Or Terry Crews did one for my mom because she's a big Terry Crews fan. Like that's integration. It's stacking tasks. You're already there. Now make your family members a part of it, but expect communication from them in return. So if you're going to open up and communicate about your day, and look, even the stuff that goes wrong, there's a lot of guys out there who will say, well, you know, you shouldn't unload your baggage on your family. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about going to your 8 or 9 or 10-year-old and complaining about why your boss is a dick and why the client, you know, pulled their funds from you, or you lost a big deal. Like, I'm not talking about whining and crying about it. I'm talking about explaining to your children and your wife that sometimes things are good and sometimes things don't go according to plan, but what are we doing about it? Here's how we're fixing it. Share that stuff with them, the good, the bad, and the ugly as appropriate in context. But what I was getting at is that you also need to ensure that they're communicating. And that might mean prompting from you, asking about their day, not how was your day? Because that's a one-word answer. That's a closed-ended question. Good. Okay, well, I personally want more than that. So a better question might be, what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? Why? What did you want to do that you didn't? What kind of things are you going to do tomorrow? What was the most exciting? Who did you talk with? How did that go? These are all very powerful questions as prompts to get them speaking and communicating with you. Again, it's about integration, no hats, no differences between work and home. It's all one and the same. We might be in different locations, but we're integrating. We're bringing work to the office and we're bringing office to home. All right. Number 4 is creating healthy boundaries. This is one I probably struggle with the most. And the reason is because, bear with me there. I needed to grab my phone because this is a problem. This phone can be a problem. It's a great solution, but it can also be a problem. And it's a problem for me because I have work at my fingertips at any point throughout the day or evening. I can access emails, I can access social media, direct messages, text, all this stuff comes through that amazingly powerful little device, but it's completely distracting and it keeps me from being present with my family. So I establish rules that I don't necessarily get on that all the time. And I can feel when I do, I can feel me just disengaging mentally, emotionally from the environment at home. If I tell my kids, hey, on Friday, I'm going to be home at 2:00 or I'm going to be available at 2:00, that's what I'm going to do. Again, I'm not always great at this. These are things that I'm striving for. All right. So what I'm sharing with you is my ideal. I'm not saying that I uphold this ideal all the time, every time. This is my ideal because I know when I do these things, it works out really, really well. And when I don't do these things, it tends to go sideways. So I'm recording this podcast on Wednesday, January 4th at 4:30. 5:00, I said I would be done because when my youngest son gets back, he said he wants to do Legos. I said, great, I'll do Legos with you when you get back. So I plugged that in. That's an appointment to me. I honor that. I cherish that. I want to respect that time. And so I make sure it's not 6, it's not 7, it's at 5 because that's what I said. Now, had I said 7 or 6, that's fine too, as long as I establish those boundaries. Work doesn't come home, meaning not that you can't talk about it because that was point number 3, but that you don't bring work home and do it while you're supposed to be home. That's what I'm saying. And personal doesn't necessarily have to always come into the office. And there's ways that you have to disengage with the personal stuff. I realize there may be some conflict in that a little bit, but I think you get the point. We can integrate our family into our work environment and we can integrate our work selves into our family environment, but we don't allow the two to come at the expense of the other. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And those boundaries will keep it from turning into that. So when you're home, you're home. When you say I'm done with a project, be done with a project. If you make a commitment, stick to it. If you're not going to stick to it, don't make the commitment. Very simple. Which actually leads into point number 5, sticking to your commitments. You have to be a man of your word. I have to be a man of my word. I have caught myself because one of my words of the year, and I'm really trying to focus on a word or 3 words per year. One of them is honesty. Being honest in all things. And that to me, when I think of honesty, I was in the driveway the other day. There's a piece of trash. I stepped over the piece of trash. Excuse me, got a beard hair in my mouth there. I stepped over the piece of trash and walked to my truck. And I got to my truck door and I opened the door. And in my mind, I was like, did you just step over that piece of trash? I shut the door, walked back around the truck to the driveway where the piece of trash was. And I picked that piece of trash up, put it into the door of the truck, and I threw it away later. To me, that's being honest because I want a clean environment. I know I'm supposed to do that. So why would I not? Maybe it's an integrity issue. Maybe it's an honesty issue. But I've also noticed just little things throughout the day. My daughter, several days ago, said, hey, Dad, do you want to color? I said, I can't right now, but I'll do it later. And I caught myself in that moment because I knew that I was lying. I knew that later I couldn't do it because I had other things going on, but I didn't want to let her down. And so I lied to her. I said, I can't right now, but I'll do it later, knowing full well later would never come. I cannot tell you how many times, hundreds, if not thousands of times throughout the day over the past 3 to 4 months, I've realized that I am so dishonest when it comes to the commitments I'm making. And the big things that we commit to, those aren't usually too bad. It's the little things like, hey, I'll take out the trash. Hey, I'll fix the broken pipes in the sink. Yes, I will go color with you. Yes, I will do Lego with you. Yes, I'll bring you to practice. Yes, I'll pick you up from lifting at this time. Or yes, I'll get you a snack at the convenience store. Like whatever that commitment is, and you have to be very vigilant on the little commitments. because they soon become the big commitments that you are failing on repeatedly over and over and over and over and over again. And that's how we as men erode trust with those around us. If you want to learn more about the trust and authority and credibility with others, you can pick up a copy of the Masculinity Manifesto. That's my book that came out earlier in the year, or last year, I guess now. And we talk a lot about building authority, credibility, and trust. But the best way to do that is just stick to your commitments. Even if you have to crawl through hell to make it happen for a little while, you should do that. Because if you made the commitment and you're feeling pain with having to do it, good. Maybe next time we'll all be a little wiser with what we promised to do. Look, it's not an issue to say, no, I can't do that, or no, I won't do that right now. That's okay. People expect that, or they'll come to learn to expect that from you because you have healthy boundaries and you care about your time. But it's not okay for me to lie to my kids. It's not okay for me to let down my wife. It's not okay for me not to have a podcast because I've committed to doing that. So it has less to do with you and more to do with my own honor, my own integrity with myself as I work to restore a lot of that. And number 5, with regards to work-life integration, I think you need to build a business. I think you need a side hobby. Not even a hobby necessarily, but I think you need to create some revenue from a side business. Now, when I say that, I think some of you might believe, well, Ryan, I'm already, capped out where I am and the time and everything else. I promise you can squeeze an extra half an hour, maybe even 2 hours into every single day if you become hyper efficient. And building a business is an incredible thing. Because if you're in an employee relationship, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that type of relationship. There's nothing wrong with that type of work. It's not less noble or less manly to work with somebody else. I'm not saying that. But I want you to have control, autonomy, authority, sovereignty, if you will, over your own schedule, over your own time, over your own income. And building a business, whether it's underwater basket weaving or teaching people how to take pictures or doing graphic design or teaching a podcast or teaching people basic woodworking skills or helping them build shelves or making shelves and selling them or making tables and furniture and selling that, making paint, making art, making music, cooking, teaching cooking classes. I got 1,000 ideas. And so do you, by the way. But in the very next breath, when we think to ourselves, I would like to do this, it's like, nah, can't do that. I have somebody in my life who quite often does that. Man, I've got this great idea. Here's what I'm going to do. Oh man, you should totally do that. I don't know. The market's pretty saturated. I don't know. I'm a little too old to do it. I don't have the capital. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. That's like, oh my goodness. How long are we going to tell ourselves that? Months? Years? Decades? I remember several years ago, this is probably 4 or 5 years ago, I had ordered some fencing materials for our backyard. And the delivery driver came over to drop these supplies off. And I was there in the middle of the day, 1, 2 o'clock maybe. And he says, well, what do you do for work? You work here at home? Like, what are you off? I said, I work here at home. He says, what do you do? And I told him what we do with the Order of Man podcast. He's like, oh man. It's like, I've had so many ideas on things that I wanted to do. Like 10 years ago, I had this great idea and he told me what it was. I can't remember. And I said, why didn't you do it? And he's like, man, I just didn't have the time. And it was, it was hard. I didn't know what to do. Came up with all those list of excuses I just shared with you. And I said, well, why don't you do it now? You didn't do it 10 years ago. Imagine where you'd be, but why don't you do it now? He's like, I don't know. I don't have very much time and I'm tired. I'm busy. Like all the same excuses 10 years later. Guys, regain some of that control and that autonomy and authority over your life by building a business. And I'm not saying it needs to be a part-time job or a full-time job. I'm saying if you can make an extra $100, $200 a week doing something you would love, that grows to 200 to 400, which grows to 6 to 8, which grows to 1,000 a month. Now it's 10,000 a month. Now it's 20, 30, 40, 50, 80, 100,000 a month. You don't even know what you're capable of because you're not willing to do it. But what would that look like? What would your life look like if you had an extra 20 or 30 grand in your bank account each year? What would your life look like if you were able to start a business and completely replace what it is you're currently doing? What would your life look like? How much time would you have available? What would your income be like? What would you be doing with that time? How would you be spending it? Who would you be spending it with? If you have the desire, an inkling even to start a business, then you definitely should start a business. Well, Ryan, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Here's a couple of things. What do you do when time's moving the fastest? Well, it's when I'm out in the shop and I'm building benches and tables and furniture and cabinets. Hey, there's an alternative. There's a route. Here's another prompt. What do people ask your advice on? Maybe it's marketing. Maybe it's photography. Maybe it's life coaching. Maybe it's fitness. Maybe it's shooting guns. I don't know, whatever. If they're asking you about it, they see that you have some sort of aptitude and capability to be able to be well and efficient in that thing. That's an opportunity. Here's one more. What would you be doing if money were of no concern? What would you be doing if money were no, everybody pays your bills, or your bills are all paid off, somebody else is giving you groceries, like everything's taken care of. What would you be doing? People will come up with some wild ideas, and I'm not dismissing them. They're wild and they're great. And then again, in the very next breath, they're like, yeah, but that's going to take a long time. I can't make any money doing that. Wrong answer. You can if you put forth the effort and the work. Guys, I want our lives to be integrated. And again, to go back with where we started, I want them to be integrated because this is life. Like, this is all we have. One shot, guys. One single shot to make the most out of this life. And if you haven't up to this point, because you're wearing dad hat, and you're wearing boss hat, and you're wearing employee hat, and you're wearing client hat, and you're wearing husband hat, and you're wearing this hat and that hat and everything else, and you're just bouncing from place to place like the winds and like a ping pong or a pinball machine, I don't think that's the life that you want to live. At least it isn't the life I want to live. Now, when I started Order of Man almost 8 years ago, I came to this realization, and I started this podcast on the side while I was doing my financial planning practice. It's since turned into this global movement, which is phenomenal, but I never had that idea. But guys, I want us to be the same across the board. More efficient, get more work done, we'll live more fulfilled lives, we'll be able to serve others, we'll actually be in the lives of the people that we care about most, namely our spouses and our children. And enough with the balance thing. If you look at a balance, look at a scale, like an old-time scale, right? And it's got a bar across, pardon me, I don't know the official term, but it's got a bar across the top, and then it's got a little basket on each one of those, and it swivels in the center. And you put work and stuff over here, and you put this over here, and it's like you're going to do activity after activity just to keep that thing balanced, right? Oh, work's getting a little heavy. I'm not doing as much at home. I got to do some home. And it's like back and forth. If you're not seeing what I'm doing with my hands, you can go check out the YouTube channel, Order Man on YouTube. Anyway, so it's going back and forth and back and forth. And the problem with that is usually you don't realize that you need to make a correction until it's getting bad. It's kind of like driving on ice. You're driving down the road and you hit a patch of ice and you start to swerve to the right. And what do? You overcorrect. And because you overcorrect and spin the wheel to the left as hard as you can, you end up in the ditch or swinging back to the right, or you roll your car and you create collateral damage. That's what balance creates. But integration, there's no separate scales. It's like I'm work and personal life and family life and personal. It's all weaved together. It's all important. And I go all in with all of those things. I hope that makes sense to you. If you have additional questions, thoughts, considerations, ideas, pointers, tips, this work-life balance thing is something that gets brought up all the time. And so at a minimum, I'd hope that you would adopt the mantra of not work-life balance, but work-life integration. Much more efficient, much more effective, much more profitable, and ultimately much more fulfilling. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you. If you want to support what we're doing, please do. The support means a lot. This is a grassroots movement. No, I don't have any advertising dollars going into Facebook ads and all this kind of stuff. We are doing this from the ground up. And so the way that you can support is by leaving a rating and review wherever you're listening to podcasts. Just take 2 minutes. 5 stars. Hey, I like this episode because of ... Simple, easy, and effective. You can also check out the store.orderofman.com. And you can check out on the store, I'd tell you to check out the battle planner. That's really good for this time of year. And the other way you can support is to pick up a copy of the Masculinity Manifesto by yours truly. Talked about that a little bit as it comes to building trust and influence and credibility. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you. You've got your marching orders. Let's integrate our lives and let's go out there and become the men we are meant to be.